All right, and I'm also going to start giving a disclaimer at the beginning of every meeting and say that the only official record that the commission will recognize of this meeting is commission-produced materials. And with that, I will turn it over to Jackie.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. The legislative committee is really hopeful that we could get the word out to all the 911 centers to invite their legislators. So we put together this presentation, and I'm glad you're here, and we'll go through it, and feel free to ask any questions at any time. But this presentation is designed for the education of 911 center representatives and PSAP managers and that kind of audience. Okay. We're going to cover several topics here, and why do we want to engage legislators? Who is 911? Challenges faced, technology projects, cost, that kind of thing. And so let's start with the next one, I think, is why engage. Purpose of this presentation. This is to help you be aware of what's happening. And a lot of you probably are, but there's been some changes with our state legislation that have some legislators confused. So we did get the Enterprise Services Board set up, and hopefully we'll get funded this year. And we want to make sure that the legislators know, one, that we need that money, that it's not for other things, i.e. last year they wanted to buy hospital software with it, and they wanted to help pay for the whole radio system with it and that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we engage our legislators so they know what we're dealing with. And when you invite your legislators to their agency, they really are interested in what we do. They want to see us. They want to know us. They have so many topics that they have to bring forward during a legislative session that it's really important to talk to them about what your agency does. Make your presentation about what your 911 center does, because they really are interested and they really do want to know. But it's one of 5,000 topics that they need to educate themselves on. And so it's always good to bring that personal touch and invite them to your center. Okay, next. I talked a lot about this. We want to personalize 911. We want to educate them. We want to make sure they know that this is why we need the funding that we have. We want to make sure they know these are the challenges in technology and staffing, and how do we pay for the entirety of 911. We want to build relationships, especially, and that building of the relationship, again, they learn about 5,000 topics, but if they have something personal to go back to, that usually keeps it in the forefront of their mind, to say, oh, this is important. And who do I talk to? Oh, I met with them. I went to their center. I know them. So they have somebody to reach out to. They have us and that kind of stuff. They know, some of them know us, but it's always great to have their local constituents. Okay, I've drummed that enough, right? Next. Okay, so our purpose, tell them who 911 is, that we're 911 professionals. We are not field responders, because a lot of times, and we've said this a lot in legislative, that if we get uniforms in the room, it carries more weight. Well, what we're trying to do here is get them the understanding that we carry weight, that we're the ones that know 911. I've seen it happen numerous times in a committee meeting, whereas the 911 professionals will testify, yet they direct the questions to the fire chief or police chief or sheriff that's there. And we are very appreciative of our first responders helping us, but we want to make sure they understand that we are kind of separate from them, that we are, out of the 6 pillars of public safety, we are the very first that people reach out to. We are the first responder. And I think that's really kind of what we're trying to get across, is that we are the professional. The fire chief doesn't necessarily know all the ins and outs of running a 911 center, where the 911 professionals who are highly trained and highly specialized know what it takes to run a center. They know what it takes to be in the chair. They know what it takes to be under the headset. And so, I think it's really important that legislators understand that we are a pillar of those 6, even though we don't have lights and sirens. So we did these 6 pillars, law enforcement, public safety, law enforcement, fire, EMS, emergency management, and mental health. And then we, of course, are the starting point for the public, usually in that system. And so the difference in structure and oversight, I think it's imperative to kind of let legislators know, so that when we come, that they know that the 911 professionals know 911, and the fire chief and the police know their response, their part of it. Okay, next.
Jackie, do you want to talk about a little about highlighting the professional skills and the specialized skills that 911 is trained in, and also how 911 professionals come to the profession from all walks of life, which is a benefit. They're not keyed into like just being a cop and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jennifer. That we do come from all walks of life. A lot of us come from being wait staffs, or Girl Fridays, or we don't always grow up in the public safety profession before we become a 911 professional. But then we're trained in all aspects. We're trained in, fire response. We're trained in police response. We're trained in EMS to a degree, right? We get all that specialized training. And yeah, I think it's very important that we bring that up to legislators, that we come from varying different backgrounds to come into the 911 world. And so that was a really good point. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, I'm turning this one over to Jennifer.
Kind of a team sport here. But when you go to your 911 legislators, a lot of them are, well, you want to have a story. You want to personalize your 911 center, and you want them to be able to identify with a personalized story. But after you hook them with the story, they're going to want some numbers. And so some helpful numbers to tell them is that in 2024, Colorado's 83 PSAPs handled 2,989,719 911 calls and 35,511 text to 911s. That's busy. Y'all are busy. And just highlighting, the work that gets done can be very helpful. And we've got some more numbers for you later in the presentation. But that 2 million, almost 3 million 911 calls, it's a really good hook and kind of gets them thinking about, oh yeah, this is a big deal.
And just to add to that, one of the things you could personalize it by is bringing in your admin numbers, which we don't have on a statewide basis, and bringing in your radio traffic numbers.
And also taking that 2.9 million and breaking it down and saying, okay, statewide, there were 2.9 million, but here in my PSAP, we took X number of those 911 calls, and really bringing it home to their jurisdiction.
Okay, talk about your challenges with them, talk about the staffing and recruitment, and how long it takes to get somebody to be since we do come from all walks of life, how long did it take you to get this young person who says, oh, I'm going to apply for this job? How long does it take you to get them through the process, hired, trained, and for them to become a fully fledged call taker and dispatcher, right? How long does that take? That takes a long time. Talk about your challenges there. Talk about the fact that not everybody is able to do this job. I know with training, it can be very difficult to get people all the way through the training program. Talk about your funding. Talk about the perception of the 911 profession by the public and by field responders, because we still struggle with field responders, being recognized. And we have the professional 911 employees, and even in the media and TV shows and stuff, I was very hopeful for that 911 show, but of course it really turned out to be about responding to calls. and crazy calls, right? And that's what it ended up being more than the 911. And so the public still has this misperception. And so your legislators are public as well. They come from all different walks of life. And so they may not understand, that how linked you are and how much you are the very first point of contact. We talked about the training process, all the increasing workload, that you're experiencing with, the communication center can do that. Technology changes and all the things that are happening with technology, constantly updating standards to meet the needs of a changing world, right? And the technology, because the technology is, I get frustrated when Excel changes, updates their software, and then I'm like, where did that function go? And so we're all constantly dealing with those kind of things as well. And I saw a chat, but I didn't get to read it. Jennifer, did you see it?
Yeah, Sharon with Lumen says statistics show 3% of the population being public safety supports 97% of the population.
Oh, that's a great statistic. Thank you, Sharon.
I used to be a dispatcher, and in training, that's what we learned. So I think it's a good number, especially when I'm talking to people and explain that, they seem to get a better idea. Sorry for the interruption, but I figured you'd want to know that.
And
Yes,
while
I definitely do. And take note of that. Let's take note of that.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to go back and highlight, the third star bullet point there, there are a lot of field responders that are very supportive of dispatch. And then there are a lot, unfortunately, of field responders, including some field responder leaders, that struggle to recognize the professionalism of 911 employees. So even though in 2024, Colorado recognized 911 professionals as first responders, sometimes it's the case that the support for that is not always universal. So highlighting that as a challenge can be helpful when you're talking to your legislators, that even within our public safety realm, we still struggle with getting the field responders to give 911 professionals the recognition and the respect that they deserve.
Absolutely. All right, I think we covered challenges.
Ready for the next one?
I am.
All right, so there are a lot of technology projects going on around the state. Some of these are universal to all the PSAPs in Colorado, and some of them might be unique to you, and you might have some that are not on this list. So again, we encourage you to highlight the ones that are specifically affecting your PSAP, but sometimes it's helpful also to give legislators a recognition and a broad statewide view. So we are at the state level continuing to work on the transition to NextGen 911. Of course, we have the EZNet, which is the foundation of NextGen 911, but we continue to work on adding NextGen core services to our EZNet to bring us closer to full NextGen 911 implementation. We are working on GIS data because everything in the NextGen 911 world is going to depend on GIS data. I did hear at the Resource Center board meeting yesterday that Connie has completed, they have a full statewide GIS PSAP boundary data set ready to go and give to the GIS company that they select out of the RFP process to refine that. This is a huge step for Colorado, and having a PSAP boundary shapefile that is clean and ready to go is an important step in the NextGen 911 implementation. So kudos to Connie and the Resource Center board and the GIS committee for getting that done and continuing the work on the RFP. Dispatch console upgrades. You and your PSAPs are constantly updating not only CAD, but phone systems and also radio systems. I know you guys, most of you are using MCC 7500s from Motorola, and those are being phased out. So you've got radio consoles that need upgrading. And I think it's important for the legislators to understand that radios in the PSAP are not the same as radios outside the PSAP, and the funding can be different, and it is governed by state statute and FCC rules. Cybersecurity is very important as we move further into the next gen 911 world. Every PSAP becomes a portal into our EZINet, and so it's imperative that PSAPs have good cybersecurity hygiene so that one PSAP doesn't compromise the system for everyone, as well as your own cybersecurity is super important so that you aren't a victim of a hacker or ransomware attempt that takes you out and compromises your ability to serve your citizens for a long period of time. 911 translation services are a hot topic. How do you translate callers or text to 911 that are in a different language? And same thing for item number 8, which goes into emergency alerts. The state has been very attentive recently to emergency notification systems and the languages that are used in those processes. So that's a challenge for a lot of agencies. The transition from voice calls to data alerts. So as we move further into the future, we were kind of talking about this before the recording started, but I think voice calls will start to decline and data alerts will become more and more common into your center, including automatic crash notifications and Internet of Things and other things. So that transition will continue to occur. And finally, IT maintenance and future planning. All of this requires IT support, and PSAPs have varying degrees of IT support all across the state. And so having that IT maintenance and that future planning are all things that face all PSAPs. And then, like I said, we encourage you to highlight your PSAPs challenges when you're talking to your legislators. Jackie, what would you add to that?
I would just add that Senate Bill 31, and I'm gonna call out Steve because he's on the phone. But that bill that we worked so hard with, and Steve was able to help with the lobbyist, actually did put in requirements for language translations from our emergency alerts when we upgrade. And Steve, I'm gonna put you on the spot if you have a comment on that.
The wording, thanks, Jackie. The wording in the bill went through multiple iterations, and the goal of the final product was to make it palatable with the systems that are currently in place today versus what the original draft wanted them to actually be. So, I mean, without going into detail on the kind of the arduous process of picking language that met the needs of translation and then also the different vendors. That's the simple answer. That helped, Jackie?
That was perfect. Thank you.
All right. Anything else on this slide, Jackie, before we go to the next?
I think we're good there.
All right. Well, we promised you more numbers, so here's a bunch.
The fun slide.
Huh?
The fun slide.
The fun slide, right? Actually, I really like this slide because it's an easy way to show all the different funding sources that are available in Colorado. And if you would like a copy of this slide deck to print out, or if you want to, we encourage you to leave your legislators with printouts of information, and this could be a good one to share with them. But and your agency probably has a mix of these different funding sources. Every one of our governing bodies in Colorado can set a local emergency telephone charge, or an ETC for short. It's assessed and collected by your governing body or authority, depending on how you call it. And it ranges anywhere from 70 cents per line per month to $4 throughout the state. So some agencies or some authorities have it set at 70 cents and some authorities have it set at $4 and everywhere in between. So there's that annual threshold amount is set by the Public Utilities Commission annually. We actually just opened the proceeding last week to set the 2026 surcharge rates. And that threshold amount is the amount that governing bodies can raise their ETC rate up to without any need for any further involvement with the commission. So when that gets set for 2026, those of you who are at the current threshold can raise their ETC rates to the next threshold, and you can continue to do that on an annual basis if that is what your local authority decides to do. You can also apply, authorities can increase beyond the threshold through an application process. So if you're looking at your projects and your future planning and you're like, wow, that we really need to set our local emergency telephone charge beyond the threshold, then you just submit an application to the Public Utilities Commission for approval. That's one that's one charge. Then we also have a statewide 911 surcharge that is assessed and collected by the PUC. It is designed to be distributed back to the 911 governing bodies in an amount that's sufficient to reimburse those governing bodies for your connections to the EZNet. So they used to be called trunk lines. Now they're called SIP sessions because we're in the EZNet world. And so the money that CenturyLink charges each governing body for each of their SIP sessions, that statewide surcharge is set to reimburse the governing authorities so that your net cost for connection to the 911 system is zero. That is currently set at 12 cents for this year, and it is capped at 50 cents. So we could go all the way up to 50 cents if we needed to, although we definitely need to justify it, just like any use of public money needs to be justified. That amount gets set annually by the PUC, no later than October 1st in that same proceeding. So this year it's set at 12 cents. Next year it could be different. I encourage you to go to the proceeding to see what's being proposed. That prepaid wireless surcharge is a statewide surcharge that's assessed by the PUC and collected by the Department of Revenue. Now, I just want to note the Department of Revenue is not the same as DORA, which is the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Two different agencies at the state. Department of Revenue deals with the money, and that prepaid wireless surcharge is set per transaction. So every time someone goes in and buys wireless prepaid minutes or tops up their wireless or prepaid wireless account by a month, every transaction that is made has that statewide surcharge. So it's currently set at $2.09 for 2025. The amount for 2026 is set in that same proceeding, and it gets distributed back to the 911 governing bodies according to a formula based on wireless 911 call volume. So your PSAP, whatever number of wireless 911 calls your PSAP took, that gets put into a formula and you get it back as a percentage of the whole. So those who take a lot of wireless 911 calls get a larger percentage than those who take a small amount of wireless 911 calls. And finally, your 911 Services Enterprise, which is brand new. It's a statewide surcharge that is included as part of that statewide 911 surcharge. It's assessed and collected by the PUC, so it would be included in that total cap. And the 911 Services Enterprise Board annually will provide an annual budget amount as part of the surcharge proceeding, and they will ask for an amount to be included in that statewide surcharge. And they can turn around and use those funds in accordance with state and FCC rules governing the use of 911 monies. So for example, next year for 2026, the statewide surcharge is being proposed at, I believe it's, don't quote me on this because I just wrote it, but I believe it's being set at 15 cents proposed, and that would be 12 cents for the reimbursement of the EZNet charges plus 3 cents that would turn around and go directly to the 911 Services Enterprise to be used in accordance with their budget and in accordance with state and FCC rules. So I'll just stop and see if anybody has any questions and also let people into the chat or to the Zoom here.
Yeah, Michael had his hand up for a second.
Well, Michael, I bet you have something to add about the
I was just going to
Services
quote you on that,
Enterprise.
but you got it right.
Thanks, appreciate that. There's a lot of numbers in my head. I want to make sure the right ones come out of my mouth. All right. So when you're talking about money to your legislators, be prepared for questions about the funding sources, because as you can imagine, the legislators are primarily concerned about money. They had to cut an exorbitant amount, over $1 billion out of the budget for this year. and they're going to have to do it again for next year. So they're going to be focused on the money, and it's going to be very helpful for you to be ready with questions. And we also have a slide at the end of this presentation, so you can reach out and phone a friend if you have a question posed to you that you need help answering. But it's helpful to understand that the ETC, that local surcharge, can be greatly affected by population differences. And the legislators aren't always clear about the different funding sources, so be ready to refer back to your materials to explain, well, this one goes to us and this one comes to us through the PUC, and so on and so forth. It can be very helpful to use pie charts or graphs to illustrate where your funding comes from. And this is an opportunity for you to highlight your own funding sources and talk with your legislators about how important each one is and what would happen if one of those funding sources were to go away. It's also important to highlight that 911 is not fully funded by 911 funding. A lot of 911 agencies are housed under municipalities or other entities. And so quantifying the costs of providing 911 can be challenging. How do you say, okay, well, the city provides us a building and they do all the maintenance and they do the HR and that kind of thing. And if you were going to break out all of those costs, it would be really challenging for a lot of agencies. So that local surcharge is set by including those community priorities and local considerations. Jackie, what would you add to that?
You know, the only thing I would add is just, I think it's very important that those pie charts are part of your presentation to your legislators. Because I know that when I was a director, we had 3 separate budgets. One from general fund, one from 911, and one from participation fund, where the agencies actually participated in capital expenses. And so I know everybody is a little bit different, and I know there are people that have different funding sources. And so it is very important to include the brick and mortar, because sometimes who's paying for that? You know, is the county paying for that brick and mortar? And it's kind of buried in their budget and it's not really even in your budget. Those kind of things would be very helpful for a legislator to see.
Awesome. And Jackie gets to talk about what's going on with prepaid.
Oh, this is so much fun. So prepaid has provided approximately 17 million in 2024 to all our authority boards, which has been great. However, recently, because our language in the statute is a little outdated, DOR, Department of Revenue, had a company question whether they fit into the category as prepaid, because they don't do things the way our language states. And so the legislative committee, along with CCOA, is working on trying to get our language changed in prepaid so that it captures the newer model. One of the newer models of prepaid is to pay for a month of unlimited service versus paying by units or minutes. And so the advice letter told this company that they didn't have to pay prepaid because they did not fit into the model we have in legislation. So right now there may be a gap, and it may cause a bit of a domino effect. We are still going to we will be keeping an eye on what happens since that letter came out to see what happens to the funding. But it's very important that as we talk to legislators this season, that we do talk about this prepaid advice letter because of the language, and so that we can get them on board with knowing that we want to cover prepaid services, even though, you know, that once our new language comes out, that we want to have them covered either as prepaid or as postpaid, that everyone who accesses 911 should pay into the system, into the charges. So that's what's going on there. Any questions on that?
And I think that's a really key thing a key point to make when you're talking to your legislators, because this is going to be a legislative fix. And they will be hearing about the bill if we're successful in getting it introduced into this year's General Assembly.
Okay. With that, we talked about this a little bit, with other funding sources in when we were talking about your pie chart. But yeah, definitely if you have agencies that pay into your system, or if you have the different taxing revenue or any of your specific things that provide a source of funding. It's really important because I think, again, as we said that, we're talking about prepaid. If we're not successful in changing the prepaid language, then we could see a drastic reduction in our funding that we are currently receiving, which then means who picks that funding up? Does your municipality, does your county, do your user agencies? Who picks up that lack of funding? I think it's really important to highlight those other funding sources so that you could show and personalize the idea that if this funding goes away, this is who is going to have to take up the slack. This is where we're going to have to look for other funding. And that also being said, that when you do that, it's important to note that the legislators, if they want to look at our funding like they did last year, if they continue down that path, what would happen to you locally? Where is the impact of that? And so make it personal, and we'll get to another slide that has that in there too.
Okay, so as a result of last year's General Assembly activity, it's important for you to understand and relay to your legislators that there are FCC and state rules that govern how you can spend 911 funds. So FCC 47 CFR Part 9, Subpart 1, if you're anything like me, I need this stuff written down. Daryl has it all in his head and he can rattle it off, but I need it in front of me. And so this is another one of those slides that you might find beneficial to download and use when you're having that conversation. But the FCC rules say that there are acceptable expenditures of 911 fees or charges, and they are limited to 1, the support and implementation of 911 services, and 2, operations expenses of PSAPs. And this is where laying the foundation of who 911 is so important, because so many people in the public, including our legislators, when they think of 911, they think of the sirens, they think of the ambulance, they think of the cops, they think of the firefighters. When you're talking about 911 fees, the 911 fees are there to support the people in the building under the headset in that room, taking those 911 calls and dispatching out those calls. There are FCC consequences for 911 fee diversion. So any state or jurisdiction engaging in fee diversion will be reported to Congress by the FCC, and such states are ineligible to participate in any FCC advisory committees and may be banned from receiving federal grant funds related to 911 technology and services deployment. In other words, if you choose to divert 911 fees to non-911 purposes, you may be ineligible for grant money later down the line. Short-term gain, but really long-term harm done. And finally, Colorado's revised statute 29-11-104 follows the FCC rules and generally states that 911 funds must be used to fund 911 related expenses, not field responder expenses. So that's kind of a key point in talking about funding and 911 funding, why it's important to make sure that 911 funding stays in the building. Jackie, what would you add to that?
I would just add that the consequences from the FCC are real. There's recently been an article out of Washington State, and I haven't read it yet, but I know the FCC is not pleased with how they were spending their 911 funds. And Joe, you have something to add?
Yeah, under the FCC rules, it would appear that it's on a state basis. So if any jurisdiction in a state misuses 911 funds, the entire state could be denied grants.
Thank you, Joe. That's a really important point, because I know that I've heard some conversations about, well, we don't go for grants anyway, but the state does. And I think that segues us into the next slide.
It does, but I have one more point that someone
go
made
ahead.
to me offline. That's they want to make sure that we highlight the fact that the enterprise funding is held separately from the state fund and budget. It has the two things are mutually exclusive, and so the state really should not be dipping into that 911 services enterprise, because it has nothing to do with the state budget. And we have a question in chat. Can you please address the difference between equipment supporting the center and supporting the field? So that's a great question, Tina. Equipment in the center is very easy to identify. Do you need a radio console at the 911 desk in order to reach the field responders? Yes, that's clearly a 911 expense. Do you need radios in the field to dispatch out those 911 calls? Yes, however, that's where it gets a little gray. And Colorado statute says that 911 funds must be used to fund 911 related expenses. So if you need a radio system to, say, for example, get those calls out to your field responders, that's generally considered okay. Where we ran into challenges last year was that the legislators wanted to use 911 funds to fund the statewide system, and the statewide radio system supports a lot of agencies that are not public safety related. They are not related to the dispatching of emergency calls, such as school districts, such as public works. And while I am all for being inclusive to the definition of public safety, the FCC says school districts are not part of public safety. Public works are not part of public safety. So when you're weighing whether or not an expense is 911 related, you need to be able to tie it back to receipt of the 911 call and getting that 911 call out to a field responder that is going to address that 911 call. Does that help, Tina? Like you can, we've had applications for ETC charges to use for CAD to CAD projects. CAD to CAD project is clearly a tool that you are using to process that 911 call. And so that falls within the state rules and as well as the FCC rules. What would you add to that, Jackie?
I think that covers it for now.
And Tina said that that helps her. The other thing that I think it's important to recognize that in Colorado, we have that annual data collection that goes out to the governing bodies every year, annually. And one of the questions on there is, have you spent any money not for 911? And so it's an honor system attestation to say, yes, we have spent our 911 money only for 911. To our knowledge, no one in the state is spending 911 money for things that are not 911 related. And so I congratulate Colorado for being in compliance. But there are 3 states in the union that are designated by the FCC as fee diverters. And when there is grant money available, those states will not be eligible to apply for or receive any of that grant money, which definitely takes us into the next slide.
Absolutely. Again, I've heard tell, oh, well, we don't get grants and we don't do that kind of thing locally. Well, and that might be all well and good that the local agency doesn't go for grants. But in Colorado, the state, we did receive a grant, which helped us pay for the EZNet, which we needed. And without that grant, I'm not sure that we would have been able to fully fund the EZNet through 911. We may have had to then rely on, again, the other agencies that pay into our system. So the most recent grant we received, 2.3 million in 2019. And the state needed to provide 1.5 million in matching funds. And fortunately at the time, and I'll, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but fortunately at the time, the PUC had some money to make the match. And so obviously 3.8 million was added to help us get the EZNet in place. And federal opportunities are, of course, extremely important. They don't happen very often. They really don't. However, they do happen once every 10, 20 years. So they do happen, and they have been beneficial to us. So if you have local authorities saying, oh, well, we don't, doesn't matter, we don't get grant funding. We do get grant funding on a statewide basis. And it has been very, very important to us. Any questions or further thoughts on that?
Looks like Matt has his hand up.
Matt, go ahead.
Is that source of the matching funding for the 2019 federal grant, is that funding now gone and there is currently no matching funding available? So we collectively in the state need to be, stakeholders groups need to be thinking about ways to sort of establish some potential matching funds.
Yes, Matt, I believe that is a true statement. I will let Jennifer weigh in on that. And I also will caveat that one of the reasons that we wanted the Enterprise Services Board was so that at some point, if that was the case, they may be able to have some matching funds.
Yeah, that source of matching funds at the time was through the CPAP fund, which has since been closed and the funds distributed. So there is not a similar account that is available for matching funds. However, like Jackie Marie said, the 911 Services Enterprise could be a possible or potential source for any matching funds. The statewide 911 Services Enterprise was created specifically to be a statewide funding mechanism that could be one source of matching funds, should the enterprise decide to go that route. So the costs of 911 can be really hard to quantify. We've talked about this a couple of times, but it's difficult to estimate the full cost of providing 911 because so many PSAPs are housed under municipal or other agencies, which mask the cost of HR services, building related costs, and other things. So we've got a couple of numbers here. As we have to report every year to the FCC certain things, and one of those is the estimated cost of providing 911 statewide. Now, I have another kudos to give to the governing bodies this year that the number of agencies or authorities that participate in this data gathering is steadily increasing. And so it's hard to say if the costs are increasing or if we're just having better reporting, which I am extremely grateful for. But in 2022, which is one of the first few years that we started gathering that information, the self-reported cost of providing 911 was approximately 86.8 million. In 2023, it was 121 million. Again, we had a lot more participation and reported costs in 2023. And then the most recent year that we have data for was also, we had all but 6 agencies report their 911 costs. And so that reported cost of doing business was 133 million. So we don't have all that data. It's based on reported information, but as you can see, and this is going to be a shock to no one, including the legislators, the cost of providing 911 continues to rise. The question is the funding keeping up? What would you add to that, Jackie?
I would just add that this is a great, statewide numbers. And yes, we're estimating because we're getting there. And hopefully someday we'll have 100% reporting and we'll be able to really drill into these numbers. But you yourself, when you're creating not only your revenue and what pays for 911, and your cost for what it costs, if you have any sources that can go back a couple of years and show the rate of increase cost to 911. So, maybe cost has increased by 30%, or maybe it's only increased by 10%. But the cost you're paying for 911 would be a really important number for legislators to have.
Yep.
Okay, funding challenges. You all probably live these more than I do. However, we made this little chart to go by when you're trying to put together your presentation for your legislator. You know, most of your funding is local and it varies from entity to entity. The emergency telephone charge or local fund can present a challenge in areas with small populations and high seasonal populations, i.e. tourism or colleges or any of those things. You know, because these days, my cell phone is my main phone and it pays surcharges where I have my address listed with my company. Now, one of the other things I want to point out, would love to point out to legislators, is that if I have kept my same service for 10 years and I'm paying that bill online and I've moved 4 or 5 times in 10 years, my address with that cell company is probably the original address I set it up with. Because I've no longer looked at the address, I'm just paying my bill online or even automatic payments out of my bank account. And so I may have started from California, or I may have started from Summit County, or I may have started from Denver, or wherever I may have started. And then therefore that company is still remitting based on what my billing address is with my cell company. That if I'm not in 911, I would never think to change my address because my bill is getting paid. I'm not worried about it. It's being done. And so I think that that's very important to note, that the populace doesn't necessarily have a correct address for collecting out of cell phones, the charge in the right area. Funding decisions aren't always made by the 911 center and the 911 expertise. Sometimes they're made by the sheriff or the fire chiefs or other people that make, or the county commissioners, whomever might make these decisions. Technology advances, of course, are increasing the cost of 911, and they're very necessary technology advancements. Personnel costs are not fully understood, i.e. if the county is paying all your HR costs and all your legal fees and your benefit package, you know, what are the actual costs of personnel? Personnel training, and I remember where I was, sometimes training would be the first that they try to cut from the budget. And we all know the very importance of training. And so, but sometimes that training cost can get exorbitant. Attempt to use, and here again, that we wanted to make sure that the legislators are very familiar with, attempting to use the services enterprise for ineligible expenses can have a domino effect. Not only could it have a domino effect with the ability to get grant funding from the federal government, it could have a domino effect on where else that funding would come from. If you had a special project that maybe the enterprise was going to be able to fund on a statewide basis. And then if they divert that funding somewhere else, then obviously we wouldn't have it for the projects we need. Another point to make to them about the enterprise service. This is our first year. This is last year they didn't even have any funding and they were talking about using that funding. And so one of our points is let them get their feet under them. Let that services enterprise get something moving forward so that we can start to see the benefits of the reason the legislators passed this in the first place is fully realized. And the enterprise is meant to, of course, assist PSAPs with expenditures, not field responders, not hospitals, you know, and of course we've drilled that over and over and you guys know that, but we really want to kind of make those key points to the legislators. Any questions on that one? Because we have a whole nother page of key points. And here's we're going to get into, you know, we talked about the 911 enterprise, and it should not be used for the budget shortfalls at the state. We realize there's budget shortfalls. We realize that this year, I guess, they lost a lot of federal funding. And so that needs to be filled somewhere again too. And so our point, of course, is please don't look at 911 because we need that funding. Use an emotional part to selling the legislators. You know, the things that I've seen get passed, and the reason they get passed is because there's a story, right? One of those stories, of course, was the way the cell phones worked when someone was shot and the call went to Aurora instead of Denver. The legislators were very aware of that. That was in the news, right? And so if you can bring some emotional stories into what you need the funding for and why and what it looks like and what would happen and what wouldn't happen, we really want you to kind of think through those things when you put your presentation together to talk about those things that are very personal to their local area. And if there are stories, use those very personal to their local area stories for them. A tour, they would love to see what you do. Most people have no idea walking in a 911 center what it looks like. And most people that I've found when they walk in a 911 center for the first time are like, oh my, right? Because they don't have a concept of what it looks like. And most people don't understand we're looking at, well, I'm not going to quote screens, 4 to 20 screens that we're looking at, right? But personalize that. How many screens are your dispatchers looking at? How many different applications are they going to? You know, those kind of things. What are they doing in there? Make it personal. Again, charts and graphs and pictures are always helpful, but bringing them in to meet your personnel, bringing them in to sit and maybe, if possible, put a audio headset on, you know, let them hear a call. You know, those kind of things make it really personal to them. Staffing challenges, you know, the staffing forecast tool and ECATS can be helpful in providing data on this. And I have heard some of you say that is scary to look at. So if anybody wants to comment on that, how scary it is to look at the staffing forecast and what your staffing actually looks like. And these challenges are not necessarily looking for assistance from the legislature. We're just looking to educate them. You know, we don't need a fix. We're not asking them to fix it. We're asking them to let us deal with what we have, right? The only thing right now that would be a point of a fix, the only ask right now is for the prepaid legislation change. That's our only ask at this point in time. Again, when you put together those charts and graphs of your expenses, it's great to highlight what you need the money for and what would happen if the money is gone. And then also differentiate the funding from other public safety needs as much as possible. You know, that is kind of that fine point of, well, we need a radio tower. However, should a radio tower be a shared expense and it only be so much on 911? However, your agencies kind of do that, right? Because you certainly need to look at it, as Jennifer said, from I received the call and I need to get it to a responder. Other things after that are not necessarily 911 so funding. Attend town halls with local legislators, and I know Carl said he had a very big success with his local town halls. I don't know if Carl's on the phone on the call. He had a good success with attending those town halls, and I you know, they get advertised pretty frequently. So if you can't, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And by meeting these people at their town halls, meeting the legislators at their town halls, then, you know, you might be able to personally invite over to see your center. Those kind of things. Any other thoughts or questions, Jennifer? No?
No, I think you covered that very well.
Okay. All right. Here's our plea for getting to know them. a personal relationship with your legislator goes a long way. When they know who you are and what you do and who to contact, they have a source. So be sure to provide your contact. Encourage them to reach out if they have further questions or need more information or any of those things. We do have a couple of websites here on this slide that you could send them to for information about 911 in Colorado. And the one thing that I'd like to include for you all is that the 911 Wonder Women are also working on a education piece for you to educate your legislators, the same as this one, on a national level. So it might be good for you guys to check that out and see if they have any other points and thoughts that you'd use, be able to use for getting in touch and stressing your points.
And I would just add that we've had a question in the chat earlier, will we provide this slide deck? And so after the completion of this, once this is posted up on YouTube later today or tomorrow, Jackie, I like your helper. We will provide out the link and the slide deck. Folks, this is why we do 911, right? To protect angels like that Jackie's got in her lap. We will provide out the slide deck, the link to this recording, and also the 911 Wonder Women materials that they put out for success in reaching out to legislators. So you'll have all of those resources available to you as you plan out your outreach. And when you are successful in your outreach, Jackie Marie has a request.
Yes, I do. I know that Summit County has a time and date set up for their legislators to come. If you would let me know that you have who you have coming so that we can kind of keep track of what legislators we've talked to and reached out to. And then also let me know how it goes. And let me know if you need any help at all, that we'd be happy to provide whatever you need. But we do want you to make sure you guys have your relationships in place. And Michael, I'm going to give you kudos for getting that all set up. So please let me know if you've been able to reach out, if you've been able to schedule anything, that would be awesome. Any questions, thoughts, anything anybody wants to add? We are right at time, but we could probably take about 5 minutes to add anything or address any questions you might have.
Yeah, that's the benefit of doing this live, is that you can definitely ask questions. And if you have a question, I guarantee you somebody else either on the call live or someone watching will have that question. So don't be shy, raise your hands, and let's get those questions out there. Jackie, I think you explained it so well that everybody is good.
Oh, well, good. I look forward to hearing from you all. I really do, about setting these up. And like I said, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help in any way, shape, or form. But our push is for this fall to get this information in front of our legislators, especially from their locals, so that they can have some information as we go into the next legislative session.
And Jackie, for those of us who may not be quite as involved with legislative stuff as you are, when does the legislative session open? And I think it would be helpful to give an idea of how compacted it is and how rushed they are and why it's so important to do this outreach now ahead of the legislative session.
That's a great question. And I think I looked it up, and I'm gonna guess, but I will make sure that those dates are put into the presentation. I believe it's January 9th through May 5th. But let me.
Yeah. But even if you don't have like the exact dates, I mean, we're talking January to May is that's the only time the legislation is in session. the legislature is in session. So they're very compacted and they hit the ground running. And by the time January rolls around, they've already got an idea of which bills they're going to sponsor and process. They're going to be focused a lot on the budget this year. And so the outreach that we're asking to have happen really needs to happen between now and November, because not a whole lot happens during the holidays.
Yes, and let's see. My question into my computer, and my computer's answer is January to May. I did
Oh,
think I saw
good.
something on January 9th, but
We beat the AI.
I'll definitely get those dates out to you all so that you have the exact dates.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jackie, and thank you everybody for attending live. Don't hesitate to reach out. Jackie is the chair of the legislative committee, but I know that anybody on the legislative committee would be happy to help answer your questions as well. So definitely reach out if you have questions. Good luck in your outreach. We appreciate everything that you do. And thanks so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all appreciate your participation.
All right. Have a great
Thank-
day, everybody.
All right. Bye.